welcome to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean, and this is Richie to my right. And we are a couple of average guys that were very concerned with the direction of our country. So over the years, we started studying, and somehow we managed to meet up together at National Liberty Alliance. Richie is the state coordinator for them, and I joined him about a year into his reign there as the New Hampshire state coordinator for National Liberty Alliance. And we found along the way that it was very difficult to disseminate the information that we were learning about, the hidden information and the things that you won't find in mainstream media or in publications. So we decided to set up this little TV program and bring some news and information to you and some commentary that you generally won't hear out in the mainstream. In fact, most of them are prohibited from sharing a lot of the information that we share. So generally we're going to talk about legal, lawful, common law, some things like that today. We're going to real quick want to touch on our friend Jerry Delemus. You want to say something about him, Richie?
Yes. I want to say that Jerry, since last week's show, last Wednesday, Jerry was sentenced to 87 months in prison for doing nothing. And the reason I say that is Jerry pleaded guilty. He was charged with 9 counts of something. I don't know what the charges were. He was pleaded to 2 counts, so he's...
Well, he did a plea bargain.
No, well, he pleaded guilty to protect people because the FBI was harassing his family and his friends here in New Hampshire, or at least that's what he was being told. So he went and pled guilty to protect those people, which, that's the kind of guy Jerry is. He'll take the bullet for you. Well, when he went to change his plea in front of Gloria Adolph Navarro, the judge, she said, no, we're not accepting your change. You come in on May 31st for sentencing, so that's basically what happened. So he went to Nevada, stood at the Bundy Ranch in support of them. By the way, he arrived in Nevada one day after the standoff, just so that everybody knows that. And secondarily, Jerry's the type of guy that will stand up for people. And all he did was stand up for his rights. But the secondarily part is simply that no one was injured or hurt. No money was taken, no money was stolen, nobody was raped, no plundering, no pillaging, none of that stuff. And he's serving 9.5 years because my understanding, I could be wrong about this, but my understanding was he got 87 months on top of the 15 he's already served. Now, I could be wrong about that. I don't really know. But that kind of sentence for a guy who did nothing, no one was harmed or injured, he stood in support of the Bundys because Harry Reid and company, his son, were trying to steal property from the ranchers. Not trying, they were successfully doing it so that those two, what's the word I'm looking for? Traders could sell the land to the Chinese so that they could start a solar farm. So when Harry Reid points to people and says, you're a domestic terrorist, I was always under the impression under the law that a jury has to say that. You're innocent until proven guilty, not Harry Reid points a finger and you are a domestic terrorist, which is exactly what happened. That's why he was Jerry Delemus was arrested. So I did want to make one editorial comment, and I hope that Jerry's wife Susan hears this, because I genuinely mean it, and I know that there are other people in the state of New Hampshire that care about Jerry and her, and they genuinely mean well. I believe that Jerry should file a truth affidavit basically declaring that they have no jurisdiction in the courts. Under Article 3, Section 2, we the people granted Admiralty and maritime jurisdiction exclusively to the federal government. Now, what Jerry did, or the charges, were all trumped up, and they had nothing to do, because Jerry's not in the military, not now, and he wasn't engaged in any international contracts, so the federal government has no jurisdiction over him whatsoever. They only have jurisdiction over maritime and Admiralty. So there is no jurisdiction for Jerry, but he was sentenced anyway because, and even Judge Adolph Navarro said it, I don't want the Constitution in my court. That's because they have their own laws. And they're made up, and the bar is guilty of putting this forth, and it's time for people to stand up and put a stop to it. So I'm encouraging Susan to have Jerry put that affidavit in the courts because it'll give her grounds to appeal a case later on, if nothing else. And Jerry has to do it personally, not the attorney, Jerry. I mean, I know that he can't get out of prison and put it in, but he has to physically write it out and have it submitted to the courts. So I would ask Susan to do that, and that's the advice of Dick Marple, who I admire and respect. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and some other people that I've talked to. So I hope that she does that. And as always, keep them in your prayers, especially now where we got this large sentence. Hopefully, if enough pressure is put to bear, he'll be let out. So you can go to freejerrydelemus.com and contribute any money that you can possibly afford to help them out. Obviously, they've got a much longer fight ahead of them now. So they'd appreciate you doing that, and keep them in your prayers, as I said. With that, I'll turn it back to... I just wanted to say one other thing. On June 20th, John Darash and Gerard Aplia, both of the National Liberty Alliance, will be on the show via remote. They're not coming here physically, but they'll be on the telephone. We'll have them on for an hour. If you care to tune in and learn about common law, they're both very knowledgeable people, and I'm sure they can enlighten you as to what's going on. Back to you, Dean.
And we'd be happy to field any questions you might have for them if you want to write to the email that you see on the screen there. The National Liberty Alliance, of course, is a grassroots organization. You can find them at nationallibertyalliance.org, and they have a fabulous civics course on there. It's 120 hours. It's extremely informative, and if you go through that civics course, by the end of it, you won't be the same person. You'll be informed about just an enormous amount of history and just the civics of our country and how things operate and how they've been operating and how they operated in the past. So
Constitution course, too. They also have that.
Yeah, they have a Constitution course. And then, of course, if you really want to get into it, you can look up the state coordinator in your area. And, of course, that's Richie here in New Hampshire. And get involved. Listen in on, they have a Monday night weekly call. It's an update sort of a call, and you can ask questions, and you get a little bit of a history lesson on common law from, what's his name? Is he still there?
Yeah, Brent Winters, I'm sorry.
Brent Winters, yeah.
He wrote The Excellence of the Common Law. He's probably one of the most knowledgeable guys around in common law, if not the most. And that's Anna von Reitz even had said that. So if you follow Anna von Reitz, you might want to look into Brent's book.
All right, before we dive into this common law stuff, I wanted to show a current affair item that I wanted to show last week, and I didn't get to show it, but has to do with Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, former chair of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. She is now working still in Washington and plays a part in oversight and on the board of the D.C. Capitol Police. But she is, she's still a top Democrat, just caught on camera threatening the D.C. police chief, which is very interesting. So I just want to show you a real quick clip, and then I'll discuss it a little bit afterwards, but here we go.
Take a look. And then lastly, I'd like to know how Capitol Police handle equipment that belongs to a member or a staffer that's been lost within the Capitol complex and found or recovered by one of your officers. What happens?
Sure. Well, it's processed on what's called a PD 81, which is a property record. And depending on the property, depending on how if you can legitimately determine ownership, then it's generally turned back over to the owner of the property.
Now, she knows the answer to this question that she just gave, and she is going to persist here because he's not giving her the answer that she wants. So let's continue to listen to this and watch how this woman comes after this guy for trying to get the answer that she wants.
If it's part of an ongoing case, then there are other things that have to occur for that to happen.
So if a member says that they have equipment that's been lost and you find it, it would be returned to the member?
In a general sense, yes.
Okay.
You have to identify, you have to be able to positively identify the property and be able to establish ownership.
Right. And if ownership is established?
If it's part of an ongoing case, then there are additional things that need to be done.
But if the member owns the equipment and there is no ongoing case related to that member, then the equipment is supposed to be returned.
Right, in a general sense, yes.
No, I mean in a specific sense. If the member loses the equipment, says they lose the equipment,
Yes, ma'am.
and it is found by the Capitol Police, it is supposed to be returned.
If ownership has been established,
Right.
it'll be returned. If it's subject to an ongoing investigation or additional things
Okay.
that need to be
But
returned.
not an ongoing investigation related to the member. If the equipment belongs to the member, it has been lost, they say it's been lost and it's been identified as that member's, then the Capitol Police is supposed to return it. Correct?
Well, it's not I can't give a yes or no answer on that because I know.
It's a simple
more
yes or no
parameters.
answer.
Well,
If you lose, if a member loses the equipment,
Yes, ma'am.
and it is found by the Capitol Police or your staff, and it is identified as that member's equipment, and the member is not associated with any case, and that is their equipment, it is supposed to be returned. Yes or no?
Depends on the circumstances. And if the circumstances are.
I don't understand how that's possible. Members' equipment is members' equipment. Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that, working through my counsel and, the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission of, through the investigation, then we'll return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way,
Wait for it.
and should expect that there would be consequences.
Oh,
I yield
there
back.
it is. We expect that there will be consequences. That's the thing she said at the end. Now, it's interesting because towards the end there, she did answer the question the way that she wanted him to answer, which was that you have to return the equipment. So you're probably wondering, well, what's the equipment? Well, it happens that there were two guys working for her, both from Pakistan. And incidentally, these two guys that have been there for, I guess, around 10 years, they managed to, through the visas and passport system, they managed to get, I think, about 6 or 8 of their family members processed in a way that they could then give them congressional jobs so that they're on the congressional payroll as staffers, making a full $160,000 a year, which is the top pay, not the bottom pay. And an estimated over $6 million was sent back to Pakistan for these people to pretend that they were working, and I'm sure this lady probably knows that was going on. She's the former DNC chair, and they work for her. And she, so the reason that she's panicked here and is attacking this guy right on TV is because that's her computer that she's talking about. So these two guys were arrested for espionage, having sent mountains of documents overseas to foreign governments, and having infiltrated the Democratic National Committee and Congress. So they're just feeding information to other foreign countries about what's going on here in the U.S. government. And, of course, that's espionage. It's illegal. It's treason to our country. And these guys are arrested for it. And she's trying to protect her own tail by threatening this guy to give that computer back. And she's arguing over a small detail, which was saying that the congressional person, either her or one of her staffers, is not under investigation themselves, and so why should they keep the computer? And of course, the obvious answer is there's an investigation going on. The computer was taken from these gentlemen or their offices or whatever, and the computer has a lot of information on it that they would want to look at.
Could I just correct you?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not computer, it's equipment. She didn't use the word computer.
Yep, there were other interviews where.
No, I'm just busting your chops because it's obvious why she didn't use the word computer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there were computers and BlackBerries found in one of the 8 houses being rented by these two gentlemen to Pakistanis, and an investigator went to one of those houses, and the guy just simply said, was there anything strange about this house when you got here? Yeah, there was computers and BlackBerries here, and I didn't know what to do with them. And he ended up calling the FBI and sent them to him because they had government seals on them. So clearly those computers and BlackBerries were not important enough to him at the time to keep them out of a rental house. So anyway, now just to go backwards a little bit from this Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, she, yeah, I'm not going to take this much further. She's now said to be part of the spy ring, which was the two brothers, the two Kwan brothers, I think they are. And then she's also formerly the National Democratic Party chairwoman, and she was relieved of her position, if you remember, during the Democratic National Committee's election for the primary, which she was dismissed for rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders and for Hillary. And all of that came out in the WikiLeaks documents that hit a couple weeks before. And for having released those documents, everybody believes now at this point that it was Seth Rich, and he was murdered shortly after that. So,
Well, I was glad that you brought that up. I wasn't even aware of that, by the way, just to let you know. But you got to highlight potential corruption in our government like that because it's so rare. You just don't find it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So you got to highlight things like that so that people know.
Well, there was only a list about 5,000 things I could have brought up today, so I picked the one that seemed to be easiest to work with.
I try to keep a straight face.
So, but anyway, yeah, there you have it. Your government at work and your tax dollars at work. All right, so where do we want to go here on?
Or did you have another clip or no? I thought you had two.
Yeah, I have another one. I'll just do it real quick on.
Same thing or a different matter?
It's the same woman, but I'm bringing backwards in time.
That are employed in the Congress, all making $160,000 or in that neighborhood, which is right at the top end of Congress. You can go to Inside Gov right now and look up, search for the name Awan, and you'll see the 6 names. Now, 2 of them are wives, so that it's Hina Alvi, A-L-V-I, or you can look up Natalia Sova, S-O-V-A. Okay. Now, the True Pundit has reported the burglaries that the Awan brothers did, the 20 different burglaries they did. And the New York Post has also reported on this, as well as I mentioned Wayne Rosiak, they call her. Marita Bartoloma at Fox had this. Barney had it. Let's see, a couple of Dobbs, I think, had it. What we've done is basically gone forward from there with in-depth searches and found out different companies they've worked for in Congress. I've developed sources in the Congress. I know you're a White House correspondent now, Mike, so congratulations on that. And so I have I'm not going to say a mole in Congress, but I've been given a lot of information that Imran worked for a company called Inter-American. The CIA link there is Enter America, but I'll cover that later with my audience. But basically through visas and passports, getting these foreign nationals into Congress in a kind of a quasi-congressional role, and then moving them into being House staffers. And these are guys nobody ever sees in Congress. I was all on Capitol Hill about last, Jason and I were there, at least 7 days talking to everybody. Jason had an ambush interview with Debbie Wasserman-Schultz. She didn't know who the Warren Brothers was.
No, apparently not. She didn't have much to say about it. Yeah. But, the other thing that, Mike, you're asking about evidence, I think certainly Debbie Wasserman-Schultz's own behavior is an indicator that this is a serious issue. We saw in the news, in her own words, there's video of her threatening the chief of the Capitol Police to return what is evidence in a criminal investigation, multiple laptops that were stolen from various congressional offices.
And Blackberries.
Now,
I believe that if people haven't seen the video of Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, there it is, threatening the Berta Rosa, who's the Capitol Police down there on D Street. She goes right into it. She threatens his budget 3 times because she sits on the committee that funds his budget. And then you have her at the end saying there will be consequences. But if that wasn't enough, she just had the chief administrative officer come, the 3 guys that gave the Awans their top secret clearance or their clearances and gave them their IT credentials. And you can watch that video of her blaming them. Now, she's the person who gave Imran Awan her laptop and her password. And this isn't just email going back and forth. These are people that sit on some of the most sensitive committees in the Congress. House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, DHS, and Foreign Affairs, like Andre Carson, Becerra, Jackie Spear, Swalwell, who we saw in the hall and had a small army around him. We went to Devin Nunes.
All right, so there you have.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understood this right. Those 6 people that worked for her were on the congressional payroll and making $160K a year each?
Correct. That money, they were family members of these 2 brothers that were caught stealing congressional staff computers, Blackberries, and also their charges are espionage, among other things.
I have a message then for the President of the United States. Mr. Trump, if you need help draining the swamp, please activate the militia. You have it in your authority. And I know thousands upon thousands of people across this country that are more than willing to help you. So please consider that.
Okay.
Ah,
So I think we got,
Get your minute.
it's amazing, yeah. I mean, she,
I meant to say one other thing, I'm sorry.
yep.
I know people right here in New Hampshire that are living on Social Security checks
Mm-hmm.
of $700 a month.
Yep.
I shouldn't say living, they're existing on $700 a month. And these clowns that are traders, and so's that nitwit, I won't even get into her name, because she's just one of a lot of them, that are selling our country down the toilet for a few Federal Reserve notes and fiat currency. And it's treason. They ought to, and if I was the captain or the chief police, my budget, I got news for you, honey. You're threatening me, you're going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Take your budget, shove it. We'll get by without it. I'm sorry, I just,
Yeah. Well, she certainly has a conflict of interest being there trying to tell him what to do like that. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into, what do you
Common
want to
law,
start?
court of record,
Yep,
or the state constitution, or any of the above.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to start, Dean, and I'll kind of interrupt you as we go along, but
Okay.
I wanted to make this point with the listeners, is that words are what they mean, and the reason that we're doing this aspect of the show is to demonstrate that to you. One of the things that I read was Article 5, and Dean's going to get into it in a minute, but it was Article 5 of the state constitution, and when I got to the word state, I said to myself, oh, that means me. I live in the state of New Hampshire. And then recently, not too long ago, someone said to me, no, you want to start looking up the meaning of the words, because it isn't what you think they are, it's what they are. What is written, the definitions, that's why they are defined, so that you do know what they are. And I found out that state means the government, doesn't mean the people at all. So the statutes, codes, rules, regulations, and ordinances don't apply to the people. And we'll demonstrate that here with a back and forth between me and Dean. And you do your own research, but I think you'll be impressed with this. I hope you are.
All right, starting with the New Hampshire State Constitution, Article 7, State Sovereignty. The people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state.
Okay, I just want to stop you right there. It says the people of this state have the sole and exclusive right. Who has the sole and exclusive right? The people. Of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state. Who's free, sovereign, and independent? The state? The government? Because that's not what it says. It says the people of the state. And you have to read that. If we are the sovereign, now you look up the word sovereign. And one of the words for sovereign is ruler. When we severed ties with King George in 1776, we left him and said, we don't want any part of you. And our framers, our founding father says, the people now are the sovereigns, but you don't have subjects. So I'm the sovereign. I'm the king of my castle. Dean's the king of his. You're the king of yours. And that's how it's supposed to work. Do no harm to others, and you don't run into the law. But we're becoming a police state because everybody has been conditioned to do things the way they've been taught to do, even though they're unlawful. Statutes, codes, rules, and regulations apply to government workers, not to the general public. And I'll illustrate that one more time, and I'll let you go on, Dean. Why would we elect representatives in the legislature to rule over us? Does that make sense to you? It just said right there that the people are the sovereign, not the government. And it'll continue to go on in one of these, and it'll say that we gave the full power and authority to the general court. All right. Who gave the authority? The people did. You mean the people are over the courts? Yes, they are. These are our public servants, and we have to understand that. So anyway, if you want to continue dealing with that.
So once again, Article 7, state sovereignty. The people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and do, and forever hereafter shall.
I'm sorry, that's really key. Do and forever hereafter. Forever. That's a long time. So it's still in effect. That was done in 1784. It's still in effect today. Forever hereafter.
And forever hereafter shall exercise and enjoy every power, jurisdiction, and right pertaining thereto. It is
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I just wanted to jump in on that one too. We will enjoy every power. The people will enjoy every power, jurisdiction, and right there too. The jurisdiction part of it is common law and a court of record. That is what the people are supposed to go by. If I have an issue with another individual, I file a claim against that person. Okay? And if somebody commits murder, that's done in a court of record too, the common law court. Because a jury of your peers is the only one that can rule over you. You're the sovereign. So that's the system we set up. Since God's not going to come down and hear the complaint on the crime that you committed, the people are 12 people in a jury. But the jurisdiction's been taken away from us. The common law, I'm sorry, not the common law, because the courts will tell you the common law exists. A court of record doesn't exist in the state of New Hampshire. And I'm not going to go into it right now, but I can prove it to anyone. Any judge or governor or anybody from the legislature that wants to come on this show, I'll do it then. I'll explain it then.
It is quite clear that the people of this state are the sovereigns, and the rules, ordinances, statutes, etc. are not applicable to them. People are governed by the common law. Governments are governed by statutes, etc. You want to comment on that?
No.
Okay.
That's self-explanatory.
State Constitution, Article 8, accountability of magistrates and officers, public right to know. All.
Before you start, I want to say, pay attention to the words here, and I'll try not to interrupt Dean, but it's important to note who has the power and who is delegating it to who. So please listen to the words.
So Article 8, accountability of magistrates and officers, public's right to know. All power residing originally in and being derived from the people, all the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them.
It's pretty clear, right?
Yep.
Our public servants, our government employees are accountable to us, the people. Now, this is the law that's being read. This is the state constitution, and he doesn't physically have the state constitution, although it's right here. I took excerpts from that and put it out. Get a copy of the state constitution and start reading. You'll be amazed. And not only that, you'll find out how empowered you are because you know the law. It doesn't require a law degree. If you want to know statutes and code, go to law school because it's all fictitious bovine scat. It'll be nice. I'm sorry, was that the end of that?
No, I was going to make my scatological comment, but I'll reserve it for, I'll maintain my decorum. All right, part 2 of that Article 8. Nope, part 2, form of government, Article 5. Power to make laws, elect officers, define their powers and duties, impose fines and assess taxes, prohibited from authorizing towns to aid certain corporations.
That's. I just want to interrupt you here. This is the part where it talks about the state, and Dean's going to read the definition of the word state also. So it's important that you listen to this because it talks about statutes and rules and regulations and whatnot.
And farther, full power and authority are hereby given and granted to the said general court.
Hold on, wait a minute. Said power is given to the, full power is given to the general court? Who gave them the power? Could it be the people? Or is it, no, it can't be the legislature because the general court is the legislature. It's got to be the people that gave them that power, right, and authority?
Well, we'll see, right? All right, so and for the general court, from time to make, ordain, and establish all manner of wholesome and reasonable orders, laws, statutes, ordinances, directions, and instructions, either with penalties or without, so as the same be not repugnant or contrary to this Constitution, as they may judge for the benefit and welfare of this state, and for the governing and ordering thereof, as you can plainly see, laws, rules, ordinances that are passed by the general court, the legislature, are made for the state and not the people. Only sovereigns can make law.
Right, and if you find, I don't know if it's on that page or not, Dean, the definition of the word state, but
It's right here.
yeah, the state, it says for the good governing of the state, or something to that effect. And it's important to notice that we elect our legislatures, and this goes with Congress too. We elect them to legislate over the government. We don't want to be bothered with that particular job. So we gave it to our representatives. They're our representatives. They're not. We don't elect them and say, hey, guys, you part-time legislatures here in New Hampshire, tell us what to do, because we don't know what to do. Rule over us. No, we got rid of the king back in 1776. Now we are the sovereign. And when I said to Dean about who gave them the power and authority, the sovereigns did in the state of New Hampshire, the people. The sovereigns are the rulers. They're the kings, okay? They gave the general court the authority to do that, and they can take it away. I won't get into the other aspect of the state constitution, but if they're not acting the way they should be, a particular aspect of the government can be replaced lawfully. It's in the law. I don't make these things up. But the more you learn about this, the more empowered you get, because you're going to know more than the lawyers. The lawyers don't study the Constitution. They study statutes and codes regulating the government.
All right, so the state and federal constitution is the people's law. Noah Webster's 1828 definition of state. State, a political body or body politic, the whole body of people united under one government, wherever may be the form of the government, or whatever the form of the government.
In the next line it says,
More usually, the word signifies a political body governed by representatives.
political body, that's the state. Political
Yep.
body governed by representatives. Not me, not you. It's very simple. Common law is do no harm to others. There's two principles. One is for every injury there must be a remedy, and the other one is if there is no crime, there is no victim. And here's the key part. The bar loves this one. And the state cannot be a victim. See, in common law, there are no victims, so there's no need for an attorney. Think about that. Right now, if someone robs you and they catch the guy, he goes to jail. You don't get reimbursed. No restitution made to you. Under common law, there's restitution made to you. And on top of that, if the man goes to jail, that's a determination that a jury makes, not a judge. Under common law, God is on top, the people, the government. No judge rules over me or you. A jury of your peers, yeah, we agreed to that 240 years ago. But no judge, no man rules over me. That's up to a jury of your peers.
We'll go on to person.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You have erect in here, but I don't know if that pertains to anything we read.
What's that?
Erect.
Well, that was under Article 4. You didn't get to that, did you?
No, I didn't see Article 4 yet.
It's in there, I think.
Okay.
Or did you miss it?
It's after this page, yeah.
Okay. And
Wanna
I
do-
did it backwards.
Person first?
Yeah, you could do that first. if
All
you'd
right,
like
so
to.
person, early 13C, from Old French personne, human being, anyone, person. Modern French personne.
Oh, can I just say something?
Yep.
Dean, about that? This is etymology. I got some of these definitions out of etymology, online etymology dictionary. And it's etymology is the study of words. And Dean said early 13th century. This dictionary goes back and defines the words at its earliest point, at least that it can, I guess, in recorded history. So when he says 13C, it's 13th century. So it tells you how old the word goes back to anyway. Just wanted to mention that.
This gets a little difficult here. All right, so from Old English person, human being, anyone, person, modern French personae, and directly from the Latin persona, human being, person, personage, a part in a drama, assumed character, originally mask, false face, such as those wood or clay worn by the actors in late Roman theater. OED, what's that? Offers the general explanation of persona as related to Latin personare, to sound through. The mask as something spoken through and perhaps amplifying the voice.
I just wanted to say that personage is slavery, by the way.
Yep. But the long O makes a difficulty. Klein and Barnhart said it is possibly borrowed from, I don't know how to say this, Etruscan fursa?
Etruscan. Yeah.
Etruscan fursa, mask. Klein goes on to say that this is ultimately of Greek origin and compares Persephone.
And that says in legal.
Yep, so in legal use, corporate body or corporation having legal rights. 15C, short for person aggregate, person corporate. The use of person to replace man in compounds and avoid alleged sexist connotations is first recorded 1971 in chairperson in person by bodily presence in form 1560s. Person to person first record 1919, originally of telephone calls. Judicatories, a place that dispenses justice.
I know that that's a little bit complicated, and I didn't want to leave anything out for people to say that we didn't put down the whole thing. We pick and choose. But the point that I wanted to make is that all of us are persons. We're corporations that our servant government made.
In the eyes of our government.
Look at your license. You'll see in all capital letters. That's capitis diminutia maxima. And it's a diminishment status. Your government took you as a person, human being, which it stated in there as a person, and brought you down to a corporate level. You are a corporation now. And the reason I'm mentioning that is simply that you get letters in the mail. You get your credit cards or anything from the banks, for that matter, because they own everything anyway, including us. It's in all caps. If you get something from the courts, it's in all caps. What they're doing is sending that information to your birth certificate, not to you. But you see your name and you go, uh-oh, I got a summons, I got to go to court. Now, I'm not telling anybody don't go to court because you'll get in trouble for that. But it behooves you to start understanding why your name is in all capital letters. And I'll mention at the end of the show where you can go to find out this information. But that's the reason that we brought persons in there, so that you understand where that is. I don't know what you got there next.
I've got the Supreme Court Administration. Oh, that's article. I got State Constitution Article 72A.
Oh, yeah, if you want it, those are amendments, by the way. If you want to read 72A and 73A, that's fine.
Okay. 72A of the State Constitution. Supreme and Superior Courts, the judicial power of the state shall be vested in the Supreme Court, a trial court of general jurisdiction known as the Superior Court, and such lower courts as the legislature may establish under Article 4, under the fourth article of Part 2, November 16th, 1966, amended.
All right, what I wanted to say about that is quite simple. Article 72A of the state constitution is repugnant to the Constitution, and it's null and void. I say it's null and void. You read it, I'm sure you'll say the same thing. Let me explain why. They consolidated the courts, and they did it under the guise of saving money, which is bovine scat again. However, there is no such thing as general jurisdiction. In the United States of America, there's three types of law, and only three. There's maritime and admiralty jurisdiction, which we granted to the federal government in the United States Constitution. Article 3, Section 2, I believe. We gave exclusive authority to them for that. And then it's law and equity. Now, law is common law. Why? Because this United States Constitution and this New Hampshire State Constitution are both common law documents. The Declaration of Independence is a common law document. There's no denying that common law is the law of the land. Admiralty and maritime jurisdiction is the law of the sea. Now, it pertains to international contracts, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's still the law of the sea. If you're in the military, you have to deal with Admiralty jurisdiction. General jurisdiction, which is outlined in 72A of the state constitution, doesn't exist in law. The bar fabricated it, got the legislature to pass it because they're ignorant about the law. Also, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be insulting to people, but if you don't read this, you don't know. It's unlawful, it's against the Constitution, it's null and void. General jurisdiction means nothing. All it is, it's a fabrication for the bar so that they can extract money from you. That's all it's about. It's not about justice. There is no justice. If there was, Jerry Delemus wouldn't be sitting in jail with an 87-month sentence. Lavoy Finnegan would still be alive today. It's not about justice, it's about money. And for the Federal Reserve note that, Dean did a show a while ago, he talked about, I think he said, what, it's worth 2 cents today?
Yeah,
Yeah.
less than that.
For 2 cents, you'd sell your soul? 2 cents for $1. So if you get 100,000 of them, it's what, 1/20th of that, whatever the hell that comes to. I'll do the math later. The point I'm trying to make is that if you don't know the law, then you can't understand what's been happening to you. And I'm still learning. I don't consider myself ignorant anymore, but I am on certain issues. I'm trying to learn the best I can. And I'm learning with a group of people called the Assembly of Common Law for New Hampshire. We'll invite you into that at the end of the show. But I wanted to mention that, please, understand what your rights are, what the law is. Just got to read the book. That's all.
73A, Supreme Court Administration. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court shall be the administrative head of all the courts. He shall, with the concurrence of a majority of the Supreme Court justices, make rules governing the administration of all courts in the state and the practice and procedure to be followed in all such courts. The rules so promulgated shall have the force and effect of law.
And I wanted to point that out because the legislature has the authority to tell the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court that he can make rules over the courts. That just makes sense to me. I'm sure it makes sense to you too. But what the legislature cannot do is give the Chief Justice or the courts authority to make laws. That's the exclusive authority of the legislature and not the judges or the courts. Another unconstitutional act. But if you don't know the law, you don't know that it's unconstitutional. By the way, unconstitutional means unlawful. It's against the law. And people should be brought to justice for that. Now, I'm not saying you start putting people in jail, but you start calling upon your state representatives to amend these things and put it back. Right now, the court of record is the only remedy of the people. And this system that we have, especially in the 72A and 73A, and it goes back to 1966 and 1978, they took the court of record from the people of New Hampshire. We don't have a remedy in law. So when you go into these general jurisdiction courts, which you shouldn't do, at least, well, if you're called into court, the cops are going to take you in because they don't know any better. The judges are the only ones who are corrupt enough to know better, but they don't seem to care. It's all the bar. It's all about money.
All right, let's move on to what is common law. Is that good?
Sure.
And the common law grand jury. Common law is the law of the land. It is the highest authority because we, the people, wrote the Constitution for the government to obey. If the government is intended to obey it, then they are servants of the people. Common law is centered around property rights, such as your speech, your actions, your family, your land and house, and your money, etc. The common law grand jury is comprised of 25 people who are not interviewed by a lawyer or judge. That is called jury tampering. The decision of a common law grand jury cannot be overturned by any court in the United States. Read 7th Amendment. The primary function of the common law grand jury is to root out corruption in government. How come there are no common law grand juries in operation today? That's a great question.
Well, we just went over part of the reason in the state of New Hampshire.
How come Richie and I are engaged in the National Liberty Alliance, because the goal is to restore the common law grand juries, and you can see why based on this information here, is that common law grand jury is designed to root out corruption in government. The National Liberty Alliance is training common law grand jury administrators to reestablish grand juries in all 3,133 counties in America. The National Liberty Alliance only requires the assistance of we the people to accomplish our mission of reestablishing the common law grand juries in America. Please get involved today by registering with the National Liberty Alliance. We the people are the common law, and only we can save America. So a question, if the government breaks the law of the land, the Constitution, who should bring them to justice? Which branch of government? Answer, no branch of government should bring them to justice. The common law grand jury should bring them to justice because that is the people's tribunal. The common law grand jury is sometimes referred to as the fourth branch of government.
But not technically.
Right. Justice Scalia.
I wanted to
go
get
ahead.
back to a point on sorry to revert back, but I missed it on 73A of the state constitution, where the legislature gave the authority to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of New Hampshire to make rules that are basically, in effect, laws. The reason that they were conned into doing that is because they took the court of record away from us, which is our remedy in law, the people's remedy in law. If you do no harm, whatever. I already went through that aspect of it. So now we're under general jurisdiction, and these people are saying that they make the laws. The law was general jurisdiction. Now, what I mean by that is that they gave it to the courts, but they didn't have the authority to do that. There's only 3 jurisdictions in the country, like I said. They took it over, and I think it's important and noteworthy for people to remember that. Common law is the remedy of the people, and only common law. Unless you're in the military or you own a boat and you're out in the ocean, maritime jurisdiction. Other than that, it's common law.
I want to read this real quick from U.S. versus Williams. Justice Scalia wrote extensively about the common law grand juries and the common law itself.
Yeah, before you get started, this is extremely important. This case is precedent-setting, and it's extremely important. I encourage everybody to listen to this, please.
Rooted in long centuries of Anglo-American history, see Hannah versus Larch, and I'll move on from there. The grand jury is mentioned in the Bill of Rights, but not in the body of the Constitution. It has not been textually assigned, therefore, to any of the branches described in the first 3 articles. It is a constitutional fixture in its own right. In fact, the whole theory of its function is that it belongs to no branch of the institutional government, serving as a kind of buffer or referee between the government and the people. Although the grand jury normally operates, of course, in the courthouse or under judicial auspices, its institutional relationship with the judicial branch has traditionally been, so to speak, at arm's length. Judges' generally direct involvement in the functioning of the grand jury has generally been confined to the constitutive one of calling the grand jurors together and administering their oaths of office. So the grand jury's functional independence from the judicial branch is evident both in its scope of its power to investigate criminal wrongdoing and in the manner in which that power is exercised. Unlike a court whose jurisdiction is predicated upon specific case or controversy, the grand jury can investigate merely on suspicion that the law is being violated, or even because it wants assurance that it is not being violated. It need not identify the offender it suspects, or even the precise nature of the offense it is investigating. The grand jury requires no authorization from its constituting court to initiate an investigation, nor does the prosecutor require leave of court to seek a grand jury indictment. And in its day-to-day functioning, the grand jury generally operates without the interference of a presiding judge. It swears in its own witnesses and deliberates in total secrecy. And all through there is case precedents. I didn't read the case precedents, or it would have just not been
Yeah,
understood.
can I jump in?
Yeah,
Dean?
please do.
I wanted to say, and this whole case is extremely important, so I hope you've got the gist of it. But what they're alluding to is it says it doesn't apply, it's not outlined in any of the 3 articles. They're talking about the three articles of the United States Constitution. Article 1 is the legislature, Article 2 is the executive, and Article 3 is the judiciary. And the reason that is, it's in the Bill of Rights, separate from the 7 articles in the United States Constitution. But what's important about that is, and it says this in the 7th Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Now, the Bill of Rights, you got to understand, is a bill of prohibition for the government. We said, don't infringe upon our rights. Here's the key. Article 7, the second sentence, well, I'll tell you the first sentence. It says, in suits at common law where the value in controversy exceeds $20, trial by jury is preserved. And then it goes on to say, and no fact tried by a jury, it doesn't say grand or petite, it says by a jury, shall otherwise be re-examined in any court in the United States. And what that means is a decision of a jury is final. Nobody can overturn it unless they violated the rights of somebody. But outside of that, nobody can overturn it. No court in America, no judge, okay? But that's not what they're doing. Judge, and I'm going to highlight this, Judge Gloria Adolph Navarro said, you're not going to use the Constitution in my court. She should be arrested and tried for treason right on the spot. And I hope that our president or our attorney general does that, because people in America are getting sick. They want justice. They're sick of the corruption. And I had to point that out because just like Article 1 that says you have the right to speak freely, to worship freely, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, petition your government, Article 7 says you got the right to a grand trial. Actually, it says, and don't make this mistake, it says trial by jury, not a jury trial. They're two different things. So please understand that. It's a trial by jury. There is a difference. You'll have to look it up. There's a lot of places to go to look that up. But start off by reading the Constitutions, both state and federal, I'll tell you that. It's extremely important.
All right, real quick, a little further along in here. It is axiomatic that the grand jury sits not to determine guilt or innocence, but to assess whether there is adequate basis for bringing a criminal charge. That has always been so, and to make the assessment, it has always been thought sufficient to hear only the prosecutor's side. As Blackstone described in the prevailing practice in 18th century England, the grand jury was only to hear evidence on behalf of the prosecution, for the finding of an indictment is only in the nature of an inquiry or accusation, which is afterwards to be tried and determined. So in other words, and this is so interesting and it's so powerful because, this traditionally, since the Magna Carta or before, has been the way for we the people to keep our government in check, and it was taken from us. And of course you know why it was taken from us, because those criminals wanted to get away with their crimes and didn't want us meddling in what they were doing, because they believe they own us and control us, and that's the nature of their character, and inherently, I would say. So they took away this opportunity for us to meet in secret, to investigate them, and to indict them for the criminal wrongdoing that they seem to always be up to. And if we the people will get together, stand in unison, and restore these common law grand juries, we would restore our power to just eviscerate the criminal activity that's going on within our government at every level. You talk about there's a lot of evidence of high-level criminality in government, but it goes all the way down to, and I just for some reason happen to think about the voting booth, people operating voting booths across the nation, and we've seen videos of them just stuffing the ballot boxes with chunks with stacks of voter cards. And
that was fake news. That wasn't real.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all under investigation now. Thank God for the new president and the new attorney general. Those things are being investigated now.
Can I segue?
Yeah,
into
please
something?
go ahead.
You
Yeah.
all set? I just wanted to mention, because Dean talked about learning and getting involved. Two things I'd like to mention to people. The National Liberty Alliance has established committees of safety all over the country. Unfortunately, it's not that significant, I guess, but here in New Hampshire we have the Assembly of Common Law for New Hampshire. It's the same animal, different name. But what I would like to mention is that every Monday night at 6:30 we have meetings. Sometimes they're in person, sometimes they're on a conference call. but I'm going to give you the conference call number, and anybody in New Hampshire is welcome to join us. Anybody outside, anybody in America, or the world for that matter, because our show does go outside the world, believe it or not. Goes to Mars, I believe. No, it goes to other countries. Anyway, the number for this conference call, 6:30 every Monday night, is 1-712-770-4908, and the access code is 384-885-pound. And you're welcome to join us. Get involved, get educated, because that's what the Assembly is about, educating the masses, educating the legislature, and educating all of our public officials, because they're, and I'm generalizing, I'm not saying everybody, but they're ignorant. I was ignorant too, so I'm not pointing fingers, but we have to get out from that veil of ignorance. I think Jefferson said, if you expect to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, you'll get what never was and never will be. So it's incumbent upon us. If we're the sovereign and it's our country, we're the ones that got to do something. And the other thing I want to mention to people is please sign up for the National Liberty Alliance. Although they would like money to fund their efforts, and they certainly need it, it doesn't cost anything to sign up. If you can send them $5 a year or $5 a week, that's up to you. But their civics course and constitutional course, second to none. And if you want to educate your kids, well beyond what they're dumbing your kids down with in the public school system, take their courses. I encourage everybody across the United States to do that. You won't find a better civics course anywhere, at least that I'm aware of, and I've looked.
Real quick, a question from one of our listeners. How would common law handle a divorce where kids are in play and there's a need for managing that?
Well, my understanding of common law is if you brought it to the attention of, we'll say the government, or to common law, you would approach a jury administrator with the issue, tell them that you're separating, and you want an equitable type of situation. The jury administrators have 40 days to resolve the issue, and if they don't do it, it's brought before the grand jury, and their decision is final and binding. Now, there is no criminal activity or criminal intent or anything there. That doesn't mean you can't utilize common law resources to resolve issues. And having done that, you're not going to lawyers, you're not paying a fortune. These people are already paid officials. That's why the bar and lawyers don't want common law. But it doesn't matter what they want. That's our remedy in law. We have to demand it.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to take away their revenue stream and give us back our justice. So, okay, that's about it. We got a minute left, but thanks once again for tuning in. And once again, we are Inform New Hampshire. You can find us on YouTube under that same name, Inform New Hampshire. We also have a Facebook group called Inform New Hampshire. Feel free to stop by either one, and also check out National Liberty Alliance at nationallibertyalliance.org. And next week we will have Eva, I think it's Silky is her last name, and she'll be in here. We're going to talk about the family courts and the criminality and the lack of oversight that we have here in New Hampshire, where the court system is run amok and does whatever they want with the ultimate private property, which would be your children. They just seem to think they can take them or do whatever they want with them.
Just very quickly, under common law, there is no victim. The victim is restored. Under the system we have now, if you're robbed and they catch the person, they put them in jail. You get nothing.
Oops.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks a lot. Tune in next week. Have a good week.